Harry and Meghan know the game is up. There is truly no other way to explain the absolute chaos that erupted this week when the Sussexes issued a statement so aggressive, so defensive, and frankly so panicked that it did the one thing they've been trying to avoid for years. It made Tom Bower the most powerful man in their world. You have to ask yourself, why would a couple who claims to crave privacy and peace fire a digital missile at a 79-year-old investigative journalist before his book was even on the shelves? This isn't just a PR blunder. It's a public admission of fear. By calling Tom Bower deranged and a conspiracy theorist, they didn't bury the story, they launched it. Within 48 hours of their clapback, Tom Bower's new book, Betrayal, didn't just climb the charts, it shot straight to #1 on Amazon. They handed him the keys to the kingdom. And they did it because they know that this time, the truth isn't just coming, it's already here. The irony of the situation is almost too much to handle. For years, Harry has made a hobby out of suing the British press. He has stood in courtrooms, wept about press intrusion, and spent millions trying to silence anyone who dares to look too closely at the Sussex narrative. So, if this book is really just the deranged ramblings of a stalker, why haven't the lawyers stepped in? Why no lawsuit? The answer is the one thing Harry and Meghan are terrified for you to realize. Tom Bower doesn't write gossip, he builds cases. As a trained barrister with 25 biographies under his belt, he has taken on billionaires, prime ministers, and the most powerful figures in Hollywood, and not one of them has ever successfully sued him. When he writes something, he has the receipts. And that is exactly why the Sussexes are currently hitting the panic button. But as it turns out, the panic was only the beginning of a much larger disaster. You see, there's a name for what Harry and Meghan just did, the Streisand Effect. Back in the day, Barbara Streisand tried to sue a photographer to remove photos of her home from the internet. Before the lawsuit, only a handful of people had seen them. After the lawsuit, millions. By reacting with such vitriol, the Sussexes signaled to every single person on social media that there is something in this book worth hiding. They didn't just promote the book, they verified it. The Sussex squad might call it a call to arms, but to the rest of the world, it looks like a white flag. They are responding to excerpts because they can't handle the full story. But what's already leaked out is enough to shake the very foundation of the monarchy. And it all starts with a 3-word diagnosis from the highest levels of the royal family. Deep inside the palace walls, Queen Camilla allegedly shared a private thought shared with a close friend has now been pulled into the light. She didn't call it a royal rift or a family disagreement. According to Tom Bower, she used a much more clinical term. She said Meghan has brainwashed Harry. This isn't just tabloid talk. This is a senior royal who has watched this family for decades, observing the total transformation of a prince in real time. But the brainwashing isn't just a theory. It's backed up by moments that were never supposed to leave the room. Take the 2018 reconciliation tea at Kensington Palace, for instance. William and Catherine were trying to make things work. But instead of a peaceful afternoon, things escalated into a confrontation that changed everything. When William pointed a finger to make a point, Meghan didn't back down. She looked the future King of England in the eye, in his own home, and told him to get his finger out of her face. That was the moment the brothers knew it was over. But as bad as that confrontation was, the isolation that followed was even worse. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your best friend, your brother, or your son has simply vanished. That is the reality for Harry's old circle. Tom Bower documents a disappearing act that would make a magician jealous. Shortly after the wedding, Harry didn't just distance himself. He reportedly changed his phone number without telling his family or his lifelong friends. People who had been by his side for decades were suddenly deleted from his life. Some weren't even invited to the wedding after-party. They were ceremony-only guests in their own best friend's life. His former royal butler confirmed it. The friends didn't leave Harry. Harry was removed from them. It's a pattern of isolation that has led many to describe the marriage not as a partnership, but as a hostage situation. And while Harry was busy cutting ties, Meghan was busy auditing the one thing she values most, the brand. This is where the story takes a truly corporate, and frankly embarrassing, turn. During a trip to Tokyo and Singapore, Harry was reportedly presented with a brand audit commissioned by Meghan. She didn't just guess how they were doing. She surveyed 50 major organizations and potential donors to see what the Sussex brand was actually worth. The result? A total collapse. The data showed that Harry's brand value had vanished and that Meghan was now seen as a reputational liability. Harry's response to this hard evidence wasn't to reflect. It was to compare himself to Johnny Depp. He truly believed his popularity was a result of his scintillating personality, and not the massive PR machine of the palace that spent 30 years making him look like the fun prince. He thought he was the star of the show, but the audit proved he was just a liability. And if you think that's a harsh assessment, wait until you see the pattern Meghan established long before she ever met a prince. Before Suits, the Spotlight, and the royal wedding, there was a version of Meghan Markle that she has spent years trying to bury. Tom Bower's research into her Hollywood years reveals a very specific pattern. From her days as a briefcase girl on Deal or No Deal, a job she later claimed reduced her, despite it being her primary source of income, to her first marriage to Trevor Engelson, the theme is always the same: leveling up. Friends described her marriage to Trevor Engelson as a genuine love story. But the moment Suits launched and she moved to Toronto, it was over. Trevor Engelson was reportedly blindsided. Then came chef Corey Vitiello. They lived together for 2 years, and that relationship ended almost the exact. The moment a mutual friend introduced her to Harry, the pattern became clear. It is consistent across every chapter of her life. The moment something better appears, the previous chapter is closed, locked, and the key is thrown away. But there is one chapter she cannot seem to close, no matter how hard she tries, and it involves the two most protected people in her world. There is no topic that generates more heat, more controversy, or more silence than Archie and Lilibet. For years, questions have circulated about the circumstances of their births, questions that could be answered with a single, simple statement. Yet, the Sussexes have chosen cloak and dagger secrecy instead. From the lack of a hospital steps photo for Archie to the metadata discrepancies in birth announcements, the silence has been deafening. Even Lady Colin Campbell and Meghan Markle's own father, Thomas Markle, have publicly called for proof. Why does this matter? Because under British royal succession law, surrogacy raises massive legal questions about a child's place in the line of succession. Archie and Lilibet are currently 6th and 7th in line to the throne. If those births were ever legally contested, the fallout would be seismic. Yet, in every interview, Oprah, Netflix, Spare, this is the one question that is never asked and never answered. But as they prepare for their return to Australia, the silence is about to be replaced by a very loud, very expensive reality. In mid-April 2026, Harry and Meghan Markle are returning to Australia, the site of their greatest royal triumph in 2018. But this is not a royal tour. There are no crowds of thousands waiting for a glimpse of the people's princess. Instead, there is a Change.org petition signed by thousands of Australians demanding that not $1 of taxpayer money be used for their security. They chose to be private citizens, and Australia is taking them at their word. Instead of balcony waves, there is a $3,000 VIP package for a photo with Meghan Markle at a luxury retreat. It is pay-to-play royalty in its most desperate form. They are returning to the place that reportedly broke them last time, where Meghan Markle was overheard asking why crowds even bothered showing up. Back then, the crowds were free. Now, she is charging them $3,000 to stand nearby. It is a staggering fall from grace, and it is all happening just as Tom Bower's book hits the shelves. The reality is that Harry and Meghan Markle have become disaster tourists in their own lives. Every attempt to appear genuine, like their recent visit to a wildfire zone, is met with accusations of being a publicity stunt. They are stuck in a cycle of needing the Netflix money while losing the credibility required to earn it. They have traded their dignity for a brand that is now being exposed as a carefully constructed character. Tom Bower's Betrayal drops on March 26th, and by the time they land in Australia, every journalist and every camera will have a copy. There is nowhere left to hide. They tried to stop the man they could not sue, and in doing so, they ensured the whole world would be watching when the curtain finally falls. Harry once thought he was in control, but as the data shows, he has become a reputational liability in a game he no longer knows how to play. The deranged statement was not just a mistake. It was the final act of a couple realizing they have lost the narrative. They cannot sue the truth, so they try to shout over it. But the world is finally listening to the silence they have kept for years. From the children to the allegations of brainwashing to the leveled-up relationships, the pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together. And as the sun sets on their brand, one question remains. What happens when the money runs out? We are about to find out. The Sussexes wanted to silence Tom Bower. Instead, they made him a legend. They wanted to protect their brand, but they exposed its collapse. And as they charged $3,000 for a photo in a country that once loved them for free, the irony is complete. The betrayal is not just in the pages of a book, it is in the mirror. But the collapse of the Sussex brand was not just a vague feeling in the air. It was a documented, data-driven disaster that unfolded 30,000 feet in the air. Imagine the scene. Harry is on a private jet to Singapore, fresh off a trip to Tokyo, where he was desperately trying to secure funding from a Japanese billionaire to keep his charity, Centervale, alive. He is feeling confident, perhaps even arrogant, believing that his personality alone is enough to win over the world. But then the cabin door closes, and he is met with a brutal reality check. On that flight was Dr. Sophie Chandorkar, a woman tasked with examining the cold, hard facts of the Sussex Empire. She did not come with platitudes. She came with a comprehensive brand audit. She had surveyed 50 of the world's largest corporations, the kind that donate millions to global charities. And the feedback was devastating. They did not see a hero. They did not see a visionary. They saw a reputational liability. The report stated plainly that Harry's brand had completely collapsed. The palace machine that had spent decades polishing his image, turning him into a war hero and a fun-loving prince, was gone. And without it, the world now saw a man who was, in their words, on the nose. What is even more shocking is Harry's reaction. Instead of accepting the feedback, he doubled down. He reportedly compared himself to Johnny Depp, suggesting that his immense popularity was entirely self-made and that the public would always side with him over the institution. It was a level of arrogance that even his closest advisors could not tolerate. And what happened next? Within months, Dr. Sophie Chandorkar was gone, having publicly accused Harry of harassment. The charity that was supposed to be his legacy came under fire. And the man who claimed to be a champion of mental health was now being accused of creating a toxic environment for the very people trying to save his reputation. But to understand why the brand is failing now, you have to look at the foundation it was built on. Tom Bower's research takes us back to a time before the tiaras and royal titles, to a version of Meghan Markle that she has reportedly spent years trying to erase. We have all heard the story of the successful actress who gave it all up for love. But the reality Tom Bower uncovers is far more complicated. Before Suits, Meghan Markle was navigating the brutal fringes of Hollywood, failed pilots, minor guest roles, and her time as a briefcase model on Deal or No Deal, a role she now speaks about with clear disdain. But it is the smaller details that begin to paint a very different picture. Seemingly insignificant lies are what truly reveal the character beneath the mask. For instance, Meghan Markle has frequently claimed in interviews that she started working at a place called Humphrey Yogurt at the age of 13. It sounds like a charming, all-American origin story, right? Except for one problem. Humphrey Yogurt has gone on record stating they have never employed anyone under the age of 15, let alone 13. Then there is the story she tells about running into actress Yasmin Bleeth at that same yogurt shop and congratulating her on a deodorant commercial. The timeline simply does not fit. Records show that Yasmin Bleeth did not even film that commercial until 1997, years after Meghan Markle's alleged encounter. These are not just mistakes. They are part of a pattern of narrative building that Tom Bower has documented across every phase of her life. From her 7-year relationship with Trevor Engelson, which ended so abruptly that he was reportedly blindsided and forced to receive his wedding ring back by registered mail, to her 2 years with chef Corey Vitiello, the pattern remains the same. The moment a better opportunity appeared, whether it was a lead role in a cable drama or an introduction to a prince, the people from her past were discarded like yesterday's news. It is a ruthless efficiency that served her well in Hollywood. But within the royal family, it is being seen as something far more dangerous, a lack of fundamental loyalty. And that brings us back to the current state of Prince Harry. There is a growing consensus among royal observers, and even within the family itself, that Prince Harry has been pulled into Meghan Markle's orbit. He is no longer the man he once was. The fun-loving prince who was once the most popular member of the royal family has been replaced by someone who appears perpetually angry, litigious, and isolated. Tom Bower's book describes him as being caught in a whirlwind of controversy created by his wife. unable to act independently or make decisions that are not filtered through the Sussex PR machine. The tragedy of Prince Harry is that he seemingly traded his legitimacy for a brand that is now being described as worthless. He walked away from the authority and respect that comes with being a working royal, believing he could build something even greater on his own. But without the crown, he is just another celebrity in a city full of them, competing for the same Netflix deals and the same shrinking pool of public attention. His brother, Prince William, reportedly saw this coming from miles away. The confrontation, described as a finger in the face, was not just about a moment of rudeness. It was about Prince William realizing that his brother was being pulled into a lifestyle that could ultimately destroy him. And now, as they prepare for their return to Australia, we are witnessing what many see as the final stages of that decline. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle arrive in Australia in mid-April 2026, it will mark their first visit in 7 years. The last time they were there, in 2018, they were the darlings of the Commonwealth. Meghan Markle had just announced her pregnancy, and the crowds were enormous. So large that staff reportedly had to explain to her that the people were not there specifically for her, but for the monarchy. Her alleged response, "What are they all doing here? It's silly," perfectly captures the disconnect that critics say defined her time as a working royal. She did not want to represent the crown. She wanted to be the crown. Now, 7 years later, those silly crowds are gone. In their place is a far colder, commercial reality. They are no longer there to represent the king. They are there to represent themselves. Meghan Markle is reportedly headlining a luxury weekend retreat in Sydney, where the cheapest ticket is nearly $2,700. For a VIP experience, which essentially means standing in the same room for a group photo, the price climbs to over $3,100. It is a level of commercialization the royal family has never embraced. Critics are already calling it the Fergie path. Just like Sarah Ferguson before her, Meghan Markle appears to be navigating life after royal duties through pay-to-play appearances. But this time, Australia is not rolling out the red carpet. A massive petition has already been launched by taxpayers who no longer wish to fund security for private citizens who chose to step away from royal responsibilities. The message is clear. If you want to live as private citizens, then fund it yourselves. The contrast is striking. In 2018, the country embraced them freely. In 2026, they are charging the very same public just to stand in their presence. It is a shift many are interpreting as a sign of desperation, as other revenue streams, including Netflix deals, Spotify podcasts, and book advances, begin to dry up.